Nobody expected the bombshell announcement to come from a teammate's social media account, but that's exactly how the WNBA world learned about the most shocking trade in women's basketball history. Sophie Cunningham, known for her straightforward personality and unfiltered opinions. I was dropped news that sent shockwaves through every corner of the basketball universe. Caitlin Clark, the rookie sensation who transformed women's basketball, could be heading to the bright lights of the implications of such a move would reshape not just two franchises, but the entire landscape of professional women's basketball. But how does a trade of this magnitude even become possible? What behind-the-scenes drama led to this earth-shattering announcement? The dominoes are falling in ways that nobody saw coming. And the ripple effects could change everything we thought and we knew about loyalty, business, and superstar power in the WNBA. The WNBA operates under a complex trade system that differs significantly from other professional sports leagues with specific rules governing player movement, salary cap implications, and franchise rights that make major trades particularly challenging to execute. Player trades in the WNBA require Spec-Sens approval from league offices and must comply with strict salary cap regulations that limit teams' ability to acquire high-priced talent or create superstar-heavy rosters. The league's relatively small roster sizes mean that every trade has significant impact on team composition and competitive balance. Caitlin Clark currently plays under a standard rookie contract with the Indiana Fever that includes a fever from lashing specific provisions about team control and trade restrictions. These contracts typically include team options and performance incentives that affect trade value and negotiation complexity. The New York Liberty is one of the WNBA's most high-profile franchises playing in the largest media market, represents an attractive destination for star players seeking maximum exposure and commercial opportunities. Their organizational resources and market position make them frequent participants in trade discussions. Questions arise about what circumstances might make such a significant trade possible and whether the financial and competitive incentives align for all parties involved in negotiations that would reshape both franchises' futures. Sophie Cunningham has established herself as one of the WNBA's most outspoken and authentic personalities, known for her willingness to address controversial topics and share unfiltered opinions about league dynamics and player relationships. As a teammate of Caitlin Clark on the Indiana Fever, Cunningham has had front-row access to the rookie sensation's impact on the franchise and the unprecedented attention that her presence has generated for the team and league overall. Cunningham's social media presence and communication style have made her a reliable source for insider perspectives on team dynamics, though her tendency toward dramatic statements sometimes creates uncertainty about the seriousness of her claims. The relationship between Cunningham and Clark has been documented through social media interactions and team activities, showing a Tracenian Frinder and supportive veteran rookie dynamic that has contributed to the Fever's improved team chemistry during the R7 Ardor season. Sports analysts wonder whether Cunningham's announcement reflects genuine insider knowledge of trade discussions or represents speculation based on organizational tensions and competitive considerations that might influence franchise decision-making. Caitlin Clark's commercial value to the Indiana Fever extends far beyond her on-court contributions, encompassing television ratings, merchandise sales, ticket revenue, and sponsorship opportunities that have transformed the franchise's financial position. Her presence has generated unprecedented revenue streams for the Fever, including sold-out home games, increased concession and parking revenue, and corporate partnerships, specifically seeking association with her marketability and the attention she brings to women's basketball. The economic impact of Clark's rookie season includes dramatic increases in season ticket sales, COP merchandise revenue, and local business activity generated by the thousands of fans who travel to Indianapolis for Fever games featuring the rookie sensation. Television broadcast fees and media rights values have increased significantly due to Clark's drawing power, with games featuring her regularly, exceeding viewership expectations and generating advertising revenue that benefits both the team and league overall. Questions arise about whether any trade compensation could adequately reflect Clark's true economic value to the Indiana Fever and whether the franchise would consider parting with such a significant revenue generator regardless of competitive considerations. The New York Liberty have built a competitive roster designed for championship contention, with established stars like Breanna, Stewart, and Sabrina Ionescu providing the foundation for a team that floored Florist has consistently competed at the highest levels of the WNBA. The franchise's location in New York City provides unique marketing and commercial opportunities that could maximize Caitlin Clark's brand value while offering her exposure to media, entertainment, and business opportunities unavailable in smaller markets. The Liberty ownership has demonstrated willingness to invest in talent acquisition and team development. Creating an organizational culture that attracts elite players seeking championship opportunities and professional growth within a well-resourced franchise environment. The team's recent competitive success and playoff appearances have established them as legitimate championship contenders who could provide Clark with immediate opportunities to compete for titles rather than building toward future success. Sports analysts wonder whether the combination of championship potential, market, size, and organizational resources might create an attractive package that could influence trade discussions and player preferences for career development. WNBA teams operate with sure player rosters and strict salary cap limitations that require careful balance between star talent, supporting players, and financial flexibility for future roster construction and competitive sustainability. The salary cap structure means that acquiring a player of Clark's caliber and future earning potential would require corresponding roster moves and financial adjustments that could affect the team's ability to retain other key players or pursue additional talent. Trade negotiations in the WNBA often involve multiple players, draft picks, and salary considerations due to the league's financial structure and limited roster flexibility. Major trades typically require creative approaches to balance competitive needs with cap compliance. The Liberty's current roster construction includes several high-salary players whose contracts would need to be considered in any major trade scenario. These financial realities create complex negotiations that extend beyond simple player-for-player exchanges. Questions arise about what combination of players, draft assets, and salary relief might be necessary to facilitate such a significant trade and whether both franchises could construct deals that improve their competitive positions while managing financial obligations. Caitlin Clark has developed an unprecedented connection with Indiana Fever fans who view her as the catalyst for their renewed interest in women's basketball and the franchise's return to competitive relevance after years of struggle. The potential loss of such a transformative player would likely devastate the Fever's fan base and could result in dramatic decreases in attendance, merchandise, sales, and local support that took years to build during Clark's rookie season. New York Liberty fans have demonstrated strong support for competitive basketball and star players. Creating an environment where Clark could potentially thrive while building new fan relationships in the nation's largest media market. The contrast between Indianapolis and New York markets creates different opportunities and pressures for star players, with larger markets offering greater commercial potential but also increased scrutiny and expectations for performance and behavior. Sports marketing experts wonder whether Clark's fan base would follow her to New York or remain loyal to the Indiana Fever, and how such a move might affect her personal brand and commercial relationships with sponsors and business partners. The league office maintains interest in competitive balance and preventing superstar concentration that could create significant disparities between franchises in terms of talent, commercial success, and fan engagement across different markets. Major trades involving generational talents like Clark raise questions about whether such moves serve the league's overall interests or create competitive imbalances that could affect the quality and excitement of WNBA competition. To toplet the precedent of allowing rookie sensations to be traded could influence how other franchises approach player development and retention, potentially encouraging more aggressive trade strategies that prioritize short-term competitive gains over long-term stability. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert and league officials must balance franchise autonomy with broader league interests when evaluating trade proposals that could significantly alter competitive dynamics and commercial distribution across the 12-team league. Questions arise about whether the league would approve such a significant trade and what factors might influence official decisions about player movement that could reshape the competitive landscape of basketball. The Indiana Fever invested significant resources in building their franchise around Caitlin Clark's presence, including coaching decisions, roster construction, marketing campaigns, and facility improvements designed to maximize her impact and commercial value. The franchise's recent success and dramatic improvement in competitive performance, fan engagement, and financial stability have been directly tied to Clark's contributions both on and off the court since her arrival as the first overall draft pick. Trading such a foundational player would require the Fever to completely reimagine their organizational strategy, competitive timeline, and commercial approach while potentially sacrificing years of relationship building with fans, sponsors, and community partners. The decision would need approval from ownership groups who have benefited enormously from Clark's presence and might be reluctant to surrender such a valuable asset regardless of potential trade compensation or competitive considerations. Organizational insiders would likely face intense pressure from fans, sponsors, and community stakeholders who have invested emotionally and financially in the franchise's success story centered around Clark's transformative impact on Indiana basketball. Modern professional athletes increasingly exercise influence over their career trajectories through trade requests, contract negotiations, and public statements about their preferences for team situations and organizational cultures. Caitlin Clark has maintained publicly positive relationships with the Indiana Fever organization. Though the pressures of professional sports and individual career goals can create situations where player and franchise interests diverge over time. The evolution of player empowerment across professional sports has reached women's basketball with elite players becoming more willing to pursue situations that align with their competitive goals. Personal preferences and social media and modern communication methods provide players with platforms to influence public opinion and create pressure on franchises to accommodate their preferences for team situations, coaching staff, and organizational direction. Questions arise about whether Clark might privately prefer the opportunities available in larger markets. Like New York, and whether such preferences could influence trade discussions regardless of her public statements about loyalty to Indiana. The contrast between Indianapolis and New York media markets represents one of the most significant gaps in professional sports, with New York offering exponentially greater exposure, commercial opportunities, and platform for personal brand development. Clark's move to New York would likely result in increased national media coverage, more frequent television appearances, and expanded opportunities for endorsement deals and business partnerships that leverage the city's concentration of media and entertainment industries. The Liberty's games receive different levels of media attention and broadcast priority compared to Indiana Fever games, potentially providing Clark with more frequent national television exposure and higher-profile competitive opportunities. New York's fashion, entertainment, and business communities provide unique opportunities for athlete brand development that are unavailable in smaller markets, potentially affecting long-term earning potential and career development beyond basketball. Sports business analysts wonder whether these market advantages might create compelling reasons for elite players to seek opportunities in major metropolitan areas regardless of their current team situations. Our WNBA trade mechanics involve complex salary matching requirements, roster spot availability, and a league approval processes that can take weeks to complete even when all parties agree on basic trade parameters. The league's trade deadline typically occurs in mid-season, though major trades can be completed during the off-season when teams have more flexibility for roster construction and salary cap management without immediate competitive pressure. Trade compensation for a player of Clark's caliber would likely involve multiple players, draft picks, and potentially cash considerations or international player rights that reflect her exceptional value to any franchise acquiring her services. The approval process requires league office review of trade terms, coach salary cap compliance, and competitive balance implications before any deal can be officially completed and announced through proper channels. Legal and contractual considerations include player consent requirements, no trade clause provisions, and performance incentive adjustments that must be resolved before trades can be finalized and players can join their new organizations of the people. The precedent of trading franchise-changing rookies could influence how future draft classes and player development strategies are approached by WNBA franchises seeking to balance competitive timelines with commercial opportunities. International women's basketball has seen star players change teams more frequently, though the different league structures and competitive calendars create dynamics that don't directly translate to WNBA trade considerations. Sports historians note that major trades often serve as turning points for both franchises involved, creating long-term implications that extend far beyond the immediate competitive impact of player movement between organizations. The financial impact of trading Caitlin Clark would be devastating for the Indiana Fever, potentially resulting in dramatic decreases in season ticket sales, merchandise revenue, corporate sponsorships, and local business partnerships built around her presence. Conversely, the New York Liberty would likely experience immediate increases in ticket sales, merchandise revenue, media attention, and commercial opportunities that could offset any trade compensation provided to acquire Clark's services. The difference in market size and commercial potential between Indianapolis and New York creates situations where the same player can generate significantly different revenue streams depending on their franchise location and organizational resources. Salary cap implications would affect both teams' ability to construct competitive rosters around their star players, with trade compensation potentially creating financial flexibility or constraints depending on the specific terms negotiated. Questions arise about whether the economic benefits of acquiring Clark would justify significant trade compensation for the Liberty and whether the Fever could find adequate financial replacement for the revenue stream she generates. As speculation continues about potential trade scenarios, Questions remain about whether such a significant move would serve the interests of the players, franchises, and league overall in terms of competitive balance and commercial. The resolution of trade discussions could establish important precedents for how WNBA franchises approach roster construction, player retention, and the balance between competitive goals and commercial considerations in building sustainable organizations. Caitlin Clark's ultimate destination will influence not only her own career trajectory, but also the broader development of women's professional basketball and the league's ability to maintain competitive balance while maximizing commercial opportunities. The implications could suggest that modern WNBA franchises must balance traditional notions of player loyalty and organizational stability with the realities of player empowerment and competitive pressures in an increasingly sophisticated professional sports environment. Sports analysts wonder whether such a trade would represent progress toward a more dynamic and competitive league or create concerning precedents that could undermine franchise stability and fan loyalty across the 12-team WNBA landscape. If you're as stunned by this potential blockbuster trade as we are, go ahead and like this video. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Caitlin Clark would thrive in the bright lights of New York City? Should franchises be able to trade rookie sensations, or should there be protections for team-building investments? We want to hear your perspective on what would be the biggest trade in WNBA history. Then hit subscribe and click the bell password or stars so you don't miss our coverage of this developing story that could reshape women's basketball forever. Thanks for watching.